Welcome to this month's Town Administrator's Report. I'm David Watts Jr., and sitting next to me this time is our Town Administrator, Steve Maio.
Yeah,
Steve,
I am
welcome.
all out of sorts. I'm over on this side, not that side. But it's great to be here on the one nice sunny day I think we've had the whole month of June. So I'm happy to be here today.
Since the middle of May.
Since the middle of May, maybe
Yeah.
since then.
Yeah. At least we don't have the heat down in the south.
I'd take a little heat, though. To tell you the
I don't
truth.
think 122 is that great. But and joining us this month, and the reason why we're both on one side, is Reverend Douglas Dry of the Baptist Church and his wife, Beth. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome to
Welcome.
WCAT.
It's great to be here.
Welcome to Wakefield and
Thank you.
WCAT.
Thank you
Although
very
you've been
much.
to Wakefield a little while now.
Yeah.
Just
so-
about two
2
years.
years.
2
2
years.
years,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, and you succeeded, I believe it was
Well,
Reverend Brown.
Peter Brown had been
Yep.
a long-time pastor, I think, for about 27 years, and then Norm Bendroff, there was an interim.
Mhm.
He came here before the fire and thought this will be a nice, easy, simple interim.
Right.
And he was here a couple of months and,
then,
had the fire and COVID, and
Yeah.
so it was. But he did a great job.
I
in
think that's
preparing
something
the
they
way.
call famous last words.
Exactly. Exactly.
And really, what kind of starts our conversation is the fire of October 23rd, 2018. And we have a couple of photos from that. And this was sparked by a lightning hit. It's 1,000,001 shot, but the building, because of its age, 150 years at the time, just went up.
Mhm.
Just went up. And but luckily we had towns from all over respond with equipment and firemen, and of course it attracted a lot of interest. But they just did a heroic job of saving what they could around the town hall. Didn't even get scorched.
Well, I tell you, I was on the front steps of Town Hall for a lot of that period of time.
Yep.
And there were embers that were, flying over
Yep.
towards us and hitting us. We had people there all night making sure the building was okay. We were open for business the next morning, but it was quite an experience to be there that night. But to see the cooperation among the different fire departments and what a great job they did is just absolutely fabulous. And the fact that no one was hurt really was a miracle. And I guess great segue to talk about new miracles that we're gonna talk about something good now, right?
Right. But you can see the firemen actually trying to keep the fire away from the artichokes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
which they did successfully with the exception of a few scorch marks.
Yeah.
Just fantastic teamwork that night. And of course, the next day. This to me is the most amazing thing was the bell, which fell through the steeple to the ground, but somehow survived. Damaged, but
Yeah. Yeah.
not in pieces.
Yeah, just even looking at that picture, it's like everything is just barren, and
Yeah,
then there's
right.
one little element of the word hope. That'll be a word we'll come back to, but just
Right.
that sense of okay, there is something new that can emerge from the old.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's what we're hoping to see.
And we'll turn this over to
All
you
right.
folks and, talk about what's new. Anyone who's been downtown in the last couple of weeks will see that there's just been tremendous progress
Yeah.
in building the new building.
Yeah, no, it's been very exciting, and we'll get to that in a second.
But talk about your family
we
because
did
you have
want to
a
talk
beautiful,
about. Thank you. Yes.
wonderful, large family. So
Yes.
let's.
So Beth and I, we've been married for 40 years. We celebrated our 40th this year.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wonderful.
that was a big milestone. And we've got three kids and some daughter-in-laws and a bunch of grandbabies and
Yeah.
2 more on the way.
Oh, wonderful.
Wow.
Yep, so it's exciting. Yeah, exciting
Absolutely.
year
Oh, yeah.
for our
Yeah.
growing family. We're actually doing something. We have next week. We have our family vacation again, and we are doing something called Cousins Camp, where we're starting. The grandkids are old enough that we're going to be gathering them together to come and spend some time with us. So
Oh, great.
That'll be something.
Wonderful.
That'll be
And
We'll see
hopefully
how we
the
make
parents
it.
won't
Yeah.
be too far away, only a couple of hours. And if
Yeah.
need be, but it will be an interesting time.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
But,
great.
No, it'll be fun. Being the grandparent is always a great time.
It's a good experience.
Right.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
certainly is.
So I thought it'd be helpful just to even like, well, how did we even get here? What was the kind of the convergence of a little of our story and the
Mhm.
church's story? At least we had been in, we've served a number of different places, Connecticut, then Colorado Springs, then back in Connecticut. And in about 2019-20, we had a difficult transition out of the church there in Connecticut. And at the same time, ironically, my father passed away. And someone sent me a card, a bereavement card from my dad, not even knowing what was happening with the church.
Mhm.
And it had this scripture on it, Romans 15:13, which says, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you would overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit." And I kind of hung on to that scripture during this transition time.
Mhm.
And when I came and did a kind of a candidating interview sermon with First Baptist, Beth and I were then walking around the property, and there was a little rock garden that
Yeah.
people had put rocks out there. And there was one rock that had scripture on it. And this was the one rock, and it said hope, Romans 15:13.
Wow.
And, you know, I don't believe a lot in like just coincidence. And, you know, just the sense of recognizing that the church had gone through a trauma, a horrific trauma, and the town as well. You know, everyone we've talked to, they whether they were churchgoers or not,
Mhm.
speak about the loss.
Mhm.
And so our sense of, you know, God's doing something new even within the town and within the church. And then something that God was doing in my life and in our lives, and somehow bringing those two things together. So I don't know how that's going to all play out, but that was a big part of me sensing this is a good place, you know, for us to come to.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then another kind of image, I'll flip it over here to Beth.
Is a bridge, and this is just a bridge in Boston on the Charles River.
Never
So
had.
the bridge has not really the significance. It's just the picture of, you know, as we've been here for now 2 years. You know, it's not always easy to move. This is my first move without kids, you know, that I have to help me
Mhm,
integrate. So
mhm.
they're all grown, and I'm doing this on my own, and you know, just kind of wondering, what am I doing here? What's our role? What's my role? And the picture came to me of a bridge in terms of as I've gotten to know the congregation that's here, and a little bit more of Wakefield and
Mhm.
what's happening in our town. Just seeing, because of my past experience, what I can bring to the table in terms of, you know, appreciating the old and what's been here, but then also helping us to get to a different future and meeting us in the present, bringing my past experience with ministry and things to the table. So, yeah, I really like the picture of. I think that's my role here, as being this bridge.
And I'm very blessed to have a partner in ministry that is just as called into ministry as I am. And so it's a great privilege to have that alongside. So that's a good strength.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I know people are eager to know about the building as well. And this is an image that has been up on the I think it's been up on our website. It's been it's on a sign on the property. But you see, it's different than the old, but we really tried to retain some historic elements of even a classic downtown church, but then also something that would be very light and airy and open. It's one floor, so it's easily accessible for all sorts of things and for people. And Lord willing, it'll be an 11-month process to get in there. So we do have a picture of a very cold day. And Steve, you're there. You're there.
Shivering.
You're shivering. And,
I was very proud to be asked to speak. Though.
yeah,
So that
it was great. Beth put that event together. I don't know some of your
With
thoughts.
some help.
With
Yeah.
some help.
No, it was a really encouraging day for our church,
Mhm.
because we're small in number, and though everyone, you know, in the church obviously is very excited for this day, and they've been very patient. We just even came in halfway through the process, so they've
Sure.
been going at this for 4 years, whereas ourselves just 2. But we had a great turnout in terms of this celebration day, and,
Mhm.
And
people-
there were many people there who weren't members of the parish
Right.
Right.
that are, part of our Wakefield family
Sure.
and wanted to be there to see the next step.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and not just from Wakefield, people from out of town too.
And
Yeah.
that had come
and
in,
support
so
that
it's-
next step.
And
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
do,
yeah.
and are thrilled to see the next step
Yeah.
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 happen. So it
Yeah.
was
A lot of
it-
support.
It was a nice day, and we got probably one of the greatest items I've ever gotten at a groundbreaking was a little vial, little
Yeah.
glass vial,
Yeah.
with earth in it from the site, and the word faith is on the
Mhm.
tag. And I have one on my desk at work, and I have one in my kitchen that
Mhm.
my wife and I look at, and it does bring a smile to our faces and make us feel good. So
Yeah.
I do thank you about that, and I have to look at that a lot some days. So I really thank
Right,
you.
right. It
Great.
applies throughout. many
Exactly,
things.
it does. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Now,
it was a
for
great day.
for people, the rendering as it's been hanging from the fence
Yeah.
is kind of difficult to really see the dimensions.
Yeah.
This church is about half the footprint of the old church, correct?
Right, and maybe even less. I mean, as far as total square footage, significantly less.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the total is probably somewhere around like 8,000 square feet, somewhere in there. And I don't know what the other one was.
Well,
but
the old church had two levels.
it had different
yeah.
levels and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
sorts of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so there's going to be significant green space around it also, which will look nice.
Yeah, I think it'll
Mm-hmm.
be very, very pleasing. There'll be spaces, I think, to gather outside as well
Yep.
as
Right.
well as inside.
Yep.
So we see that things have been happening. I think it was about a month after that groundbreaking when the equipment started arriving, which was very exciting. And you see, of course, they've been digging out the footings and then filling that in with concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can really start to see it take shape.
Yeah.
And so this shot here gives you a picture of the kind of the tower, which is right in the corner there.
Yeah.
There'll be a baptism right in that tower, a baptismal, which is
Mhm.
be kind of I think a cool feature,
Mhm.
right up on the stage there.
Wonderful, yeah.
And then so sanctuary, fellowship hall space, kitchen, office, kids space,
Mm-hmm.
very compact, but very multi-purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Mhm.
all has to be flexible because it is limited, but I think it'll be maximized,
Right.
to the full.
It doesn't look like there's a traditional bell tower in the steeple.
Right. I think some of it is as in a function of cost.
Yeah.
The tower kept getting smaller. We didn't want a 190-foot tower.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we thought that's a bad thing. So one of our designs that then it was too expensive did have a little bit taller tower, but we ended up kind of going shorter and shorter, trying to come in budget. So
Sure, sure,
yep.
Mhm.
sure.
So
Well, I for one love the way it blends in.
Yeah.
And it really is reminiscent of the old church. I think it's a great testament to your architectural team and you guys are going forward. I am actually happy that the tower is much shorter. And I'll tell you why. And I've shared this, I think, with Doug before.
yeah.
That years ago, at least one year, one thing about being town administrator and having kids in the schools, I think you mentioned it, Beth, you really start to get integrated in all the stuff that's going on because your kids in the schools tell you.
Yeah.
One year, senior scavenger hunt
Mm-hmm.
was, and there was some scaffolding up against the old tower. Take a picture from the top of the scaffolding at the Baptist church. All right, so I actually got a hold of that the list, and I said, no, that's not going to happen. And I
Someone's
had
very creative.
had the police make sure that didn't happen
That's good.
that night at all. So I I'm actually very happy that it's a little bit safer.
But when you
Yes.
talk about that old tower, you and I are both old enough to remember Laura Young, who was
Yes.
a steeplejack,
Yes.
and well into his elderly years was still painting churches, including
Wow.
the Baptist church
Yeah.
a couple of years before he passed away.
Okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
And he was up on, his son Donald, who was a photojournalist, made photos of him up on the top of the steeple, painting the
Hmm.
steeple.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's very cool.
that'd
Yep.
be special for the family to have.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Yes.
Well, I wanted to emphasize too that the church is not the building. And you know, it's easy to say that when you don't have a building,
Mhm.
Right.
and so it's important that we keep saying it, even whether it's for our own people or anyone who comes and joins us, that
Mhm.
it isn't really about the building. The building is just a tool
Right.
to accomplish the vision and the mission. And I had an interesting conversation at the Festival by the Lake, which was awesome, by the way. Shout out to
Mhm.
those people who put that on.
Yeah.
I was walking actually towards our church property, and I passed a young couple, and they were talking, and one of them was saying, "Why are we building a church? We don't need another church. We should be building a community center." Just as I walked right past them, it was very interesting, very timely. So I just happened to stop and say, you know, it's interesting. I'm actually the pastor of that church, and they were, you know, a little
Right.
appalled. But I said, tell me more. Like, what do you mean by a community center?
Yeah.
So at first they said, we want a pool. So I said, well, we're not going to get a pool. You used to have one at the Y. You
Yes.
could talk to
Right.
Mr. Mayo about
Yeah.
putting in a pool.
Oh, thank you so
I'll
much.
throw that one to you. No, I didn't throw you under the bus on that. But I asked, I said, what kinds of things would you like to see in a community center? And it was interesting. Some of the things they began to say were things that, yeah, absolutely, we want to be able to either host or we want to help facilitate. So, for
Mhm.
example, the young mom said, what about a dad's kids play group? She said, there's
Mhm.
all sorts of play groups for moms.
Mhm.
What is there for dads? Where is there a space for that? Where
Mhm.
could dads gather?
hmm
That could happen, you know,
Mhm.
in this facility. What about things that could be kind of training and equipping people with their marriages or within parenting?
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that can happen there.
Different
So
seminars.
it was interesting to kind of turn the conversation
Right.
Mhm.
and hopefully, you know, kind of said we could work together on this.
Mhm.
But I think that's one of our hopes is that that facility will really enhance the ability to serve, you know, not just our congregation, but to serve the broader needs of the community
Sure.
in whatever niche that God puts us. You know, there's different churches and organizations that serve things. We're still trying to figure out, well, what will be our niche?
Mhm.
Because it will be something new now in this new
Mhm.
era.
Mhm.
One thing we do see, though, I think too, because we live near the lake, is just the hundreds of young families that walk past our vision, every day with strollers, with little
Mhm.
ones, and um, we do really have a heart for younger families to support families at every stage. I think, especially now where we're at, and with our own kids having their children and seeing the financial pressures, all the decisions that they have to make with their kids, the pressure for education, just a lot of things
Mhm.
that I feel like are newer than when we raised our kids, and so we really do have a heart to come around and support and encourage families. I was
Mhm.
involved in a ministry in Connecticut where we started gathering. We started really small with about 20 moms, and it was moms at all stages. And we had them for breakfast and then read different parenting books. And it grew to 100 moms within
Mhm.
like
Wow.
6 months because they're hungry, for that support and help and support. So, yeah, we just have some neat ideas and hopes
Sure.
too for how the building can be used for that.
And
Sure.
I think you're so spot on with the pressures on young families. I
Yeah.
mean, we didn't have this constantly with us when
Technology.
we were raising our kids, not worried what they're looking at theirs
Right.
or what's
Yeah.
being sent to them, I should say, on theirs. I think that we didn't feel as second guessed in some of the instinctual maybe paths we took with our kids. I think now everything's out there, and if you're not doing this, you're a bad parent. If you're doing this, you're a bad parent.
Mhm.
Who's to say?
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines with I would say to my wife, well, that wasn't in Parents Magazine, but I think it worked. I get that. That may go. I'm not saying people are gonna think I'm like way out
No,
there, but
that's
no.
great.
But it's like
There's so many opinions out there today that that
and
puts
it's
some more
it
pressure
puts
on.
so much more pressure. Am I doing the right thing? And I see my children that are parents, they're struggling with the two because they get all this other influence on
Yeah.
them. So I think, a way of connecting with the young families and having them come to a place, a sanctuary, a place where they can really, bond and kind of, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
it's really
Mhm. Mhm.
what a great community asset.
Yeah.
So I thank you. I know we've talked about this before.
Yep.
So I think it's just fabulous.
Yeah.
I really do.
I had one more picture here. This actually is the same shot, but originally I cropped out my in-laws.
Oh.
I love my in-laws. I love Beth's parents. But I just kind of held that to say, the strength really of our family is because we have their 4 generations of,
Yeah.
and it's amazing, 4 generations of people who followed the Lord and are seeking to pass on their faith from generation to generation,
Mm-hmm.
and just the incredible strength of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what we see in a church and in a community.
Mm-hmm.
That's a powerful strength when you've got all those generations together and are
Mhm.
connected.
Right. Yeah. Luckily, I'm also blessed to have 4 generations
Mm.
at the same event, at the same table, and a lot of respect and a lot of wisdom, and with my parents. So it really is great. So I get that 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one more thing I would just add is we do have a sign up on our fence, and one of the some of the wording is that it says God's doing a new thing, come and see. And just wanting to put the invitation out there. Well, not only come and see, but come and see and stay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Join
So
us.
we do have a core team who are committed, but we need to add to our team.
Mm.
And so we are putting the invitation out there too for others who have the same heart and hope to build a church here in Wakefield, a multi-generational, a church that
Mhm.
really blesses our community and strengthens it. So to come and join us.
What are some of the timelines going forward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the immediate, the slab will be poured next week. So
Wow.
that's something where then you really can see
Yeah.
what the footprint is. We are hoping, if all goes well, to be in by Easter of 2024. I'm hoping we'll be ready a couple of Sundays early so we can actually do some dry
I think it's
runs.
very ambitious. I said that before, but I think that's great.
Yeah. So that's what our hope is.
Mhm.
And even someone has said, well, even you can get it maybe if it's not completely everything's done, you could get
Yeah.
like a temporary residency even for that day. And
Right.
so that's what we're really shooting for. And we're so thankful that we're up out of the ground
Yeah, that's great.
and we're on our way there. So
Mhm.
So slab next week or so.
slab next week or
And,
so. I
and then
think
the steel comes up.
Yeah.
the steel, I think, and for some reason they wanted to wait a little on the steel to get like the second, I don't know if it's called secondary steel, not just the main steel, but also maybe it's the steel studs. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to actually do more of the site work.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it's not going to affect the schedule.
Mhm.
And then the steel and then close it in. And
Right.
so, then work till we're done.
So I think one of the next big events will be the topping off ceremony.
Yeah.
And I hope that you invite us to that and invite WCAT. I'm going to volunteer them to come in and
Yeah.
film that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Because that's a great day when they put that last piece of steel up.
Yeah.
I
Make you
in
feel it. You've
July
come out of the ground.
Yeah.
You've risen. And then
Yeah, no, that's
and,
right.
yeah.
And I think
We're upright.
our contractor has agreed actually even to come over on a Sunday and open it up so we
Great.
can do something where they're not working at the same
Yeah.
time, and we can write on the
Yeah.
beam and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we will
We'll
make sure
definitely
you're
invite you.
invited, and WCAT absolutely as well.
I'd love to be there and
You
right on
know,
the beam for that. Perfect.
one of the things that came out of the fire, and it was a photograph in the Globe taken the day after, was that given the intensity of the fire, it didn't look like anything inside would survive. And yet, Globe photojournalist caught, I think it was a town worker, carrying this massive painting
Yeah.
of
Right.
Jesus
our building
Christ
inspector,
across,
Jack Berto.
Right.
yeah, across to town hall for safekeeping.
Yeah.
How many artifacts survived that horrendous fire? It's amazing that the painting did, and I don't
Right.
remember where in the building it was because it had literally been 20 years since I had been in the building.
Yeah. I think there was very little. There was a few things that were salvaged, a few papers and some
Yeah.
photographs, and then the one thing that was totally intact was a set of handbells that had been out for repair.
Mhm.
So that was in safekeeping, and so
Mhm.
we actually still have that.
Mhm.
So, but everything else was pretty much a total loss.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you were going from scratch.
So at least having this painting is along with the remnants of the bell, an echo to the previous building.
There is yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. There's a little remnant.
Yeah, I think that painting was in the front foyer when you came in, and it was amazing that did
Yeah,
survive.
given the heat
Intact,
and everything.
And I teased the former building inspector. That was his claim to fame,
Yeah.
as he carried it. And they showed him on the news. I told him they got his better side.
Nice.
They got him from the back, and he had the painting. But yeah, that
Yeah.
was quite something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To have
Yeah,
that into,
it just absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
and the resiliency of the members of
Yeah.
the parish are just amazing to me.
Yeah.
I've
Right.
spoken to a lot of them a number of
Yeah.
times.
One of the other things the church was known for years was Tall Spire Kindergarten.
Right.
Will that be coming back?
As we had to redesign, there's literally not space
Mm-hmm.
in this design for a preschool.
Mm-hmm.
So subsequent, there could be expansion, but
Right.
we need to fill up this space first. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a great ministry, but we can't open with that, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I know that was a big part of the community.
Yeah.
So,
It's just an amazing story that it's coming back.
Yeah.
And
we're glad to be a part of it.
Thank you for.
And I do, and I think the community needs to know that you are both very much active in the community, and you talk about going to Festival by the Lake. I know you go to the chamber breakfasts. We had another event at the Civic Center, which was really when a lot of people a couple of years ago got to see the design for the church and everything. And so I think it's great the way you've already indoctrinated yourself into the community. And the other thing is the support of the clergy, the other clergy, particularly on the clergy council. So it really has been
Right.
a real
Right.
great integration.
Well, and we saw that, right from the night of the fire. The congregation was invited to use the Covell Chapel
Yeah.
at First Parish,
Yeah.
which also suffered its own catastrophic fire in the last century.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And even at the groundbreaking,
Yeah.
there was a great representation
Exactly.
from
Yeah.
all the.
It
the
is. I
churches.
don't know. I've never done a study on this, but there have been a lot of church fires over the years in Wakefield.
Yeah.
No, they really
well,
are.
noticed-
I mean,
not
noticed
just
that.
in Wakefield, but yes.
but in general.
yes,
But
yes.
St. Joseph's had a horrible fire.
Yep. 1976,
77.
Yeah.
And of course, this one another. So it is
Yep.
interesting,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
But we keep going on, though,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys for
Absolutely.
having us on.
Oh,
here.
thank you
We
so
really
much.
appreciate it.
And
Thank you for joining
so
us.
Yes,
people can
great to
click
be
on
here.
that QR code
That's right.
and
Yeah,
get some info.
hanging on the
Perfect.
fence,
And
and that'll
updated
take you to our
pictures.
website.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that is great. That is wonderful.
And we'll look forward to doing an update. Maybe we'll do a tour.
Yes, we
When
want
the
a
new
tour.
Oh, that'd be
We'll
great.
do a
building
Yeah,
tour.
the grand
open up.
opening.
That'd be
We'll-
great.
We'll
Yeah.
come in and do an episode on location.
That would be
That'd be
fantastic.
great.
Not
Yeah.
done.
That would be very fun.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Fantastic. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. We won't be returning next month. We'll be taking our annual month off
Right.
for summer. But in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful and safe July 4th. And we'll be back to see you in August.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you both.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. See you next time.